The warm aroma of fresh coffee and baking pastries filled the cozy cafe as the morning rush began to slow. Behind the counter, Sophie Chen wiped down the espresso machine with practiced efficiency, her movements showing the confidence of someone who had built something from nothing over the past 5 years. At 32, Sophie owned the Morning Light Café, a modest but successful business in a gentrifying Chicago neighborhood. The cafe represented years of early mornings, tight budgets, and the kind of determination that came from needing to provide for her 4-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily sat at a corner table, carefully coloring in a book while occasionally glancing up to watch her mother work. The little girl with blonde pigtails and a pink dress was Sophie's entire world, the reason for every difficult decision and sacrifice she had made since discovering she was pregnant 5 years ago. What Sophie's regular customers didn't know was that Lily's father had never met his daughter. When Sophie told him about the pregnancy, he had made his choice clear. He was 28, building a career in finance, and a child didn't fit into his carefully planned life trajectory. He had offered money for an abortion, and when Sophie refused, had simply walked away. That man was Ryan Mitchell, who had gone on to fulfill every professional ambition he had prioritized over fatherhood. At 33, Ryan was now the CEO of Mitchell Investment Group, wealthy beyond most people's dreams and living exactly the life he had planned. Today, Ryan walked into the Morning Light Cafe for the first time, having chosen it randomly while exploring the neighborhood where his company was considering a new office location. He was checking his phone, barely noticing his surroundings as he approached the counter. Sophie looked up from the register and felt her entire body freeze. 5 years dissolved in an instant as she found herself face to face with the man who had abandoned her when she needed him most. Ryan's eyes met hers, and recognition flickered across his features. "Sophie? I didn't know you worked here." "I own it," Sophie replied, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. Years of building her business had taught her to maintain composure in difficult situations. An awkward silence stretched between them as the weight of their history filled the space. Ryan seemed unsure whether to acknowledge their past or pretend they were just casual acquaintances meeting by chance. Before either could speak again, a small voice broke the tension. "Mommy, I finished my picture. Do you want to see?" Lily had approached the counter, holding up her coloring book with the pride that 4-year-olds brought to their artistic achievements. She looked between her mother and the stranger, curious about why her mom seemed different. Ryan's gaze shifted to the little girl, and Sophie watched as he did the mental calculation that any observant person would make. Lily was the right age. She had Sophie's features mixed with characteristics that could easily be his, and the timing aligned perfectly with when he had walked away. "This is Lily," Sophie said quietly, her protective instincts making her want to shield her daughter from this moment. "Lily? This is someone Mommy used to know." Lily studied Ryan with the frank assessment that children often bring to new people. Then, with the devastating directness that only a 4-year-old could deliver, she asked the question that would change everything. "Are you my daddy?" "Mommy said my daddy had to go far away, but maybe he could come back someday." The cafe seemed to hold its breath. Sophie felt panic and anger and protective fury all warring inside her. She had never lied to Lily about having a father, but she had framed his absence in terms a child could process without feeling abandoned. Ryan's face had gone pale. He looked at Lily, then at Sophie, then back at Lily, clearly struggling to process this moment he had never prepared for. "Lily, sweetheart, why don't you go finish your coloring while Mommy talks to this gentleman?" Sophie said gently, her voice remarkably calm given the circumstances. After Lily returned to her table, Sophie gestured for Ryan to step outside with her, leaving her assistant manager to handle the counter. On the sidewalk in front of the cafe, Sophie turned to face the man who had abandoned her 5 years ago. "You have a daughter," Sophie said simply. "I tried to tell you I was keeping the baby, but you made it clear you wanted nothing to do with us. So I raised her alone, and I built this business alone, and we've been fine without you." Ryan seemed to be struggling to find words. Sophie, I had no idea. I mean, I knew you were pregnant, but I assumed you would make the choice I suggested. You assumed I would have an abortion because it was more convenient for you, Sophie clarified, her anger finally breaking through her professional composure. You didn't check in? You didn't ask? You just walked away and went on to build your perfect life while I was working 3 jobs while pregnant and then figuring out how to be a mother while trying to survive financially. I was 28, Ryan said, his voice carrying something that might have been regret. I wasn't ready to be a father. I had career goals and plans. And I was 27 with my own plans, Sophie countered. But I didn't get the luxury of walking away. I had to grow up immediately and figure out how to be responsible for another human being. Ryan was quiet for a long moment, watching through the cafe window as Lily colored at her table, completely unaware of the life-altering conversation happening outside. She thinks I went far away? He asked quietly. I told her that her daddy had important work to do far away and couldn't be with us, Sophie said. I didn't want her to grow up thinking she was unwanted or that her father didn't care about her. So I framed it in terms that didn't damage her self-worth. That was generous of you, considering I didn't deserve that kindness. I didn't do it for you, Sophie replied. I did it for her. She deserves to feel loved and wanted, even if her father chose not to be part of her life. Ryan took a deep breath. Sophie, I don't expect you to forgive me or to want me in Lily's life. But I need to ask, what would it take for me to try to make this right? I can't undo the past 5 years, but maybe I can try to be better going forward. Sophie studied his face, looking for signs of genuine remorse versus performative guilt. Ryan, the question isn't what it would take. The question is why you would want to. You made your choice very clearly 5 years ago. What's changed? Seeing her changed it, Ryan admitted. Standing here, knowing that I have a daughter who exists in the world, who asked if I was her daddy with hope in her voice, that changes everything. I can't unknow that now. That's not good enough, Sophie said firmly. Being a parent isn't about moments of emotional realization. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard, even when it's inconvenient, even when it conflicts with your other plans. I don't need someone who wants to play father when it feels good emotionally. She paused, her voice growing stronger. If you want to be part of Lily's life, you need to understand that it's not about you. It's about what's best for her. And that means being consistent, being present, and being willing to put her needs before your own ambitions. Ryan nodded slowly. You're right. I abandoned you both because I prioritized my career over responsibility. I can't undo that, but I'd like the chance to prove I can do better. Sophie considered his words carefully. Her instinct was to protect Lily from potential disappointment. But she also recognized that her daughter deserved the opportunity to know her father if he was genuinely committed to being present. Here's what I'm willing to offer, Sophie said finally. You can start by taking responsibility for the past 5 years. That means back child support. That means acknowledging that you made a choice that hurt both of us. And that means understanding that you don't get to just walk back into our lives on your own terms. I understand, Ryan said quietly. If you can demonstrate consistent commitment over time, if you can show up regularly and reliably, then we can discuss a relationship with Lily. But I won't introduce you as her father until I'm confident you won't disappear again. Over the following months, Ryan did something Sophie hadn't expected. He showed up. He paid back child support without argument. He attended co-parenting classes to learn about child development. He showed up for scheduled meetings at the cafe, initially just sitting nearby while Lily played, gradually building familiarity without overwhelming her. Sophie watched cautiously as Ryan slowly built a relationship with their daughter. She saw him cancel business meetings to make scheduled time with Lily. She watched him read books about parenting children from divorced or separated families. She observed him being patient with Lily's initial wariness and her questions about where he had been. Most importantly, she saw him reckon with the consequences of his choices. Ryan didn't make excuses or try to rewrite history. He acknowledged to Sophie directly that he had failed them both and that he was trying to become someone worthy of being Lily's father. A year after walking into the Morning Light Café, Ryan sat with Lily at the same corner table where she had first asked if he was her daddy. This time, after months of building trust and demonstrating commitment, Sophie had agreed that Ryan could answer that question honestly. "Lily, I want to tell you something important," Ryan said gently. "I am your daddy, and I'm very sorry that I wasn't here when you were born and for the first years of your life. I made a mistake and I hurt you and your mommy, but I want to try to do better from now on." Lily considered this information with the seriousness that children brought to important truths. "Will you keep going away?" "No," Ryan promised. "I'll be here. I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I promise I'll keep showing up." Sophie watched this exchange from behind the counter, her emotions complex and layered. Ryan's return hadn't erased the years of struggle or the anger she felt about his initial abandonment. But she had also seen him genuinely try to change, to prioritize Lily over his own convenience, and to reckon with the harm his choices had caused. The CEO who had walked into her cafe a year ago had been forced to confront the human cost of treating relationships as disposable when they conflicted with ambition. The journey toward redemption wasn't complete, and Sophie maintained clear boundaries about her own relationship with Ryan, but for Lily's sake, she was willing to give him the chance to prove he could be the father their daughter deserved. Thank you for listening to this story about taking responsibility for past mistakes and the long road to redemption. If this tale reminded you that real change requires consistent action over time rather than grand gestures, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in second chances earned through genuine effort, and subscribe for more stories about the complexity of family relationships. We'd love to hear in the comments about times when someone proved they could change through sustained commitment, or when you learned to balance protecting yourself while allowing for the possibility of growth. Remember, forgiveness isn't about forgetting harm, but about seeing genuine transformation over time.